Week 6 of Intro to Business. This is Sean Canary. This week we'll be discussing Chapter 5, How to Form a Business. There's really three basic forms of business ownership, starting with sole proprietorship. This is a business owned and is usually managed by one person. A partnership, a legal form of business with two or more owners. You often see these as law firms or partnerships. Or a corporation. Now, this is a legal entity with authority to act and have liability separate from its owners. So let's take a look at the United States as a whole. You can tell that sole proprietorships make up a majority of the percentage of businesses in our economy. The pure number of businesses out there are sole proprietors. However, in relationship to total revenue, corporations make up the most, and sole proprietorships make up the least. So you can tell that pure number of businesses in our country are small businesses, but yet they account for only 6% of the total amount of revenue earned in the United States. Pretty interesting, huh? So, some of the advantages of being a sole proprietor, the ease of starting and ending the business, right? You can very easily start a business. We have a local business incubator in Knox County. You can fill out the proper paperwork and start your own business. You can also easily end the business. You're your own boss, and you have a sense of pride and ownership of that company. You can leave a legacy, right? Hand it down. My parents own a landscaping company and handed it down to my brother-in-law. Didn't want to get involved with it, but my brother-in-law did. You can also keep company profits. You don't have to distribute it among employees, or you don't have to distribute it among stake or stockholders, right? Plus, there are no special taxes. Some of the disadvantages, though, of a sole proprietorship: unlimited liability, right? The responsibility of the business owners for all of the debts of the business. If something goes wrong, you're on the hook. Now, we'll be talking about some ways to incorporate and some ways to provide you protection to help mitigate this liability. But again, sole proprietors have unlimited liability. Limited financial resources, too. They're usually footing the bill themselves. Management difficulties. Usually small businesses have major management difficulties because it all falls on one person. And it's an overwhelming time commitment. One of the reasons why I didn't take over my father's landscaping business is because he'd work till 9 o'clock at night, 9:30 at night, and frankly would work 80 to 90-hour weeks. I didn't want to do that. I was around that all my life, and I didn't want to do that. There's few fringe benefits, limited growth, and there's a limited lifespan on sole proprietorships. Often small businesses fail within the first 5 years, and very rarely do they make it past year 10 or 20. So let's talk about partnerships. There's two major types of partnerships: a general partnership, which is where all the owners share in operating the business and assuming liability for the debts of that business, or a limited partnership, where there's a partnership with one or more general partners and one or more limited partners. Now, limited partners don't have full authority over the business, but their partnership, they're technically a partner and can help contribute towards making those decisions. You'll often see limited partners as a law firm. Again, general partners, you have an owner who has unlimited liability and is active in managing the firm. A limited partner is an owner who invests money in the business but does not have any management responsibility or liability for the losses beyond an investment. Now, limited liability is the responsibility of the business's owners for losses only up to the amount they invest. Limited partners and shareholders also have limited liability. Some other forms of partnerships that aren't common are mastered limited partnerships. These are partnerships that looks much like a corporation in the fact that it acts like a corporation, is traded on the stock exchange, but it's taxed like a partnership and thus avoids corporate tax. Limited liability partnership, an LLP, is a partnership that limits partners' risks of losing their personal assets to only their own acts and emissions and to the acts and emissions of people under their supervision. So, what are some of the advantages and disadvantages of partnerships? Well, some of the advantages are more financial resources. You have more people contributing towards the company. Shared management and pooled complementary skills and knowledge. Longer survival and no special taxes. Some disadvantages include unlimited liability to the owners, division of profits between those owners, often disagreements among partners with the direction of the company, and difficulty of termination. What happens if somebody's not pulling their weight? How do you fire a partner? It's a very, very complicated process. So, when you're choosing a partner, here's some questions to ask yourself. Do they share the same goals? Do you share that same vision for the company? What skills do the person have? Do they complement yours? What can that person bring to the business? What type of decision maker is that person? Do you trust each other? How does that person respond to adversity? Does he or she try to solve the problem or try to defend his or her ego? Can that person accept constructive criticism? And to what extent can you build excitement into the partnership? Your homework assignment, your attendance assignment, is to actually tell me if you and your best friend could start a company. What advantages would they bring? What disadvantages would they bring? I wouldn't start a business with my best friend. I'll tell you that right now. I've had several opportunities. I love him like a brother, but we would fight like cats and dogs. So tell me in your discussion post what you think about starting a business with your best friend. Corporations. Let's talk a little bit about corporations. A conventional corporation is a state-chartered legal entity with authority to act and have liability separate from its owners. Basically, its stockholders. Some corporate types: alien corporations. These do business in the United States but are chartered in another country. For instance, Kay Jewelers is owned by Signet. They do business in the United States, but they're based out of the Bahamas. Domestic corporations do business in the state which they are chartered or incorporated. Foreign corporations do business in one state but are chartered in another. Closed or private corporations have stock that is held by a few people that it isn't available to the general and isn't available to a general public. Open public corporations sell stock to the general public. And you'll see these in initial stock offerings, or ISPs. Quasi-public corporations are chartered by the government as an approved monopoly to perform services to the general public. Professional corporations are owned by those who offer professional services. And then nonprofit corporations don't seek personal profit for their owners. Finally, multinational corporations. These are corporations that operate in several countries. Some advantages of corporations: limited liability. The owners have limited liability to what they invest in. These include stockholders. The ability to raise more money for investment with public share offerings. The size. Corporations tend to last long, and they're very easy to change ownership. They also are bigger, so they command more talented employees, attracting more talented employees. And there's a clear separation from ownership and management. Some disadvantages include initial cost, expensive and extensive paperwork, double taxation, filing 2 tax returns, the size, very hard to run a business when it's so large, difficulty of termination, and possible conflict with stockholders and the board of directors. So, how do owners affect management? Well, owners elect or stockholders elect a board of directors, and the board of directors then hire officers to set direct corporate objectives and select managers and employees below them. As you can see in a corporation, there's a lot of layers. Now, individuals can incorporate. Anyone, truckers, doctors, plumbers, athletes, small business owners can incorporate. Normally, stock is not issued to outsiders when individuals incorporate, so the advantages and disadvantages are not exactly the same for large corporations. Major advantages are limited liability and possible tax benefits. An S corporation is a unique government creation that looks like a corporation, but it's taxed like a sole proprietorship and partnership. S corporations have shareholders, directors, and employees, plus the benefit of limited liability. Profits are taxed only as the personal income of those shareholders. Now, qualifications for S corporations: you can have no more than 100 shareholders, and shareholders that you have to have shareholders that are individuals or estates and who, as individuals, are permanent residents or citizens of the U.S. You can only have one class of stock and derive no more than 25% of your income from passive sources. If an S corporation loses its S status, it may not operate under it again for at least 5 years. Now, a limited liability company is something that I recommend for all small businesses. A limited liability company is similar to an S corporation, but without the special eligibility requirements. Some advantages of becoming an LLC: limited liability, choice of taxation, flexible ownership rules, flexible distribution of profits and losses, and operating flexibilities. However, there are some disadvantages. There's no stock, therefore ownership is non-transferable. There's a limited lifespan. There's fewer incentives. There's taxes involved. And there's a lot of paperwork. However, companies like online, as like LegalZoom, can make LLC paperwork a lot easier. Let's talk about corporate expansion with mergers and acquisitions. A merger is a result of two firms forming one company. An acquisition is one company purchasing the property and obligations of another company. Now, there's different types of mergers: a vertical merger, a horizontal merger, and a conglomerate merger. Vertical merger happens when two of the companies are in different stages of related businesses. A horizontal merger is the joining of two firms in the same industry, and a conglomerate merger is the joining of firms in completely unrelated industries. Let's look at this figure 5.8 to kind of hone in on this. So in a horizontal merger, maybe it's a soft drink company buying a mineral water company. Even though the product's different, the industry is the different, bottling of beverages. What about if a soft drink company buys an artificial sweetener company? This is considered a vertical company because artificial sweetener is a part of soft drinks or soda. And finally, a conglomerate merger example would be if a soft drink company bought a chip company, right? They're unrelated industries. A leveraged buyout is an attempt by employees, management, or a group of private investors to buy out stockholders in a company. LBOs have ranged in size from 50 million to 34 billion and have involved everything from small family business to giant corporations. Business acquisitions are not limited to U.S. buyers, and I think we hear buyouts all the time happen. Now, franchisees The franchise model is another popular model in the United States. And you'll see franchises a lot in the food industry with restaurants and fast food restaurants and different things like that. A franchise agreement is an arrangement whereby someone with a good idea for a business sells the rights to use the business name and sell product or service to others in a given area. And as you can see, that original business is a franchisor selling to a franchise and franchisees. More than 733,000 franchise businesses operate in the U.S., employing approximately 13.3 million people. And I guarantee that you all shop at franchises. Some advantages of franchises: management and marketing assistant, right? So if you're to open up, buy a Subway franchise, you're going to get support from that Subway corporate with marketing, management, hiring. They're going to help you get your business started. And it gives you a sense of personal ownership. You personally own that franchise. Plus, you have name recognition right off the bat. It's not Sean Subs, it's Subway. You got name recognition. Uh, in addition, a lot of franchisers offer financial advice and assistance, and there's a lower failure rate. However, some disadvantages with startups, with franchises, is there's a large startup cost. I have a friend that recently purchased a Subway franchise in a Walmart, the ability to open up a Subway in a Walmart. They spent $500,000 on the startup fee. Plus, you share all the profits with the franchise. Management regulation, you have to follow certain rules. Coattail effects, if something happens corporately, you will feel the effects. Uh, like, for instance, Subway. What happened with their spokesperson, Jared? He ended up getting charged and going to jail. That had a negative effect on all the Subway franchises. There's restrictions on selling. You can't just sell it to whoever. And there's also fraudulent franchisors out there. Some diversity in franchising. Women actually own half of U.S. companies, yet ownership of franchises is only 21%. More women are becoming franchisors, though. Auntie Annie's, Decorating Den, and Build-A-Bear were all started by women. And Diversity Fran is an initiative to build awareness of franchising opportunities within minority communities. Duncan Brand's Diversity and Franchising Initiative offers financing and development support for minorities and military veterans. And over 20% of franchises are minority owned. Some home-based franchise, this is another popular model. Some advantages: relief from commuting stress, extra family time, and low overhead expenses. However, there are some disadvantages such as isolation and long hours. E-commerce and franchising, becoming very popular, opening up an e-commerce store. My friend next door has an eBay storefront where he resells shoes that he purchases and makes profit on it. Most brick and mortar franchises have expanded online. Many franchisors prohibit franchisee sponsored sites because conflicts can erupt. Sometimes reverse royalties are sent into franchisees who believe that their sales were hurt by the franchisor's site, and other franchisees are solely based online. Franchisors use technology, including social media, to extend their brands and meet the needs of both customers and franchisees. Also helps expand their business. And franchising in global markets is popular. Canada is the most popular target for US-based franchises. Also, franchisors are finding it easier now to move into China, South Africa, the Philippines, and the Middle East. International franchises goes both ways. Some foreign franchises have come to the U.S., including Kuman Learning and H&R Block. Now, co-ops or cooperatives are businesses owned and controlled by the people who use it, producers, consumers, or workers with similar needs who pool their resources for mutual gain. Worldwide, co-ops serve 1 billion members, and members democratically control the business by electing a board of directors that hires professional management. Back in Ohio, where I'm from, we have a town and country co-op. It is a good services for farmers. We also have co-ops as far as utility services, which helps us manage costs because it's a cooperative to produce low electricity costs and distribute it among the consumers. So there's many advantages to co-ops. So that's it on chapter 5. Please review the PowerPoint, but let's talk a little bit about the homework. So there's also a additional reading that I want you to do. And if you go onto this link, it'll give you some more in-depth details of how easy or how complicated it is to start some business types. Also, there's a discussion point of which type of entity would work for you. So we've discussed a bunch of different types of businesses, including partnerships. If you were to open up a business with a best friend, would you form a partnership with them? Why or why not? What aspects or disadvantages would they bring to the table? So it's important that you participate in this discussion for attendance. Also, there'll be a homework assignment with 3 questions assigned to you that you can fill out, and everything is due by next Tuesday. As always, I'm here to help you, and if you have any questions, please let me know. Until next time, have a good week.